Welcome back to the Insights Unlocked podcast. In this episode, we're diving into the future of SEO with Georgia Tan, co-founder of SwitchKey Digital. Georgia has pioneered Search Experience Optimization, or SXO, a smarter way to think about search by blending SEO, user experience, and conversion rate optimization. If you're wondering how to boost organic traffic and keep users engaged, this one's for you. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to Insights Unlocked, an original podcast from User Testing, where we bring you candid conversations and stories with the thinkers, doers, and builders behind some of the most successful digital products and experiences in the world, from concept to execution.
Welcome to the Insights Unlocked podcast. I'm Nathan Isaacs, Senior Manager for Content Production at User Testing. And our guest today is Georgia Tan, co-founder of SwitchKey Digital. Georgia's journey through the world of digital content, from writing to strategy to SEO, has given her a unique perspective on the connection between search and user experience. This experience has led her to develop the SXO framework, which we'll be discussing today. Georgia, you've had an impressive career in digital marketing and search strategy. Can you share a bit about your journey? What led you to co-found SwitchKey Digital? And how did you come to develop your approach to search experience optimization?
Thanks, Nathan. My background is a blend of content and SEO. I started as a content writer, and that really gave me a deep understanding of user needs and how to craft compelling narratives. And then I moved into content strategy and learned more about the impacts of content and aligning with business goals, and then eventually moved fully into SEO, eventually becoming a SEO director and often collaborating with in-house teams. And I think this is where I really realized that true success for your digital strategy really requires a more holistic approach. And I realized that something was often missing with how people approached SEO, focusing on the user. Like, we could rank websites, but were they truly serving the people who visited them? This question really became even more pressing, and I started working with my co-founder, Alex, a UX designer. We really saw this disconnect in the industry, and that's what inspired us to create SwitchKey Digital and develop the SXO, or Search Experience Optimization framework, trying to bridge that gap between search visibility and user satisfaction.
You describe SXO as a blend of SEO, UX, and CRO, focusing on both search engine rankings and user satisfaction. What inspired you to develop this approach, and how does it differ from traditional SEO strategies?
Exactly. I'd say search experience optimization, SXO, is that intersection of SEO, UX, and CRO. Often, I think people think that SXO is only combining SEO and UX, but I think it's really important to also consider that it's including CRO, because we're not just focusing, say, in SEO on ranking the top of Google, but it's really important to consider what happens before the click as well as after the click, basically the entire user journey. And my inspiration for developing this approach really came from working on the ground with clients, and we saw that simply reporting on like keyword rankings, traffic, even just conversions alone, it wasn't really telling the whole story. And what stakeholders, especially like business and product teams, what they really cared about was being able to attribute that revenue or the conversion goals, the engagement coming from organic search, and see the impact on the bottom line. And at the same time, I noticed a lot of overlap in the optimization work I was doing. So, for example, I could be optimizing a landing page, and on that page, I wasn't just optimizing for SEO keywords. It's also really important that I would be incorporating CRO tactics and doing and refining the copywriting to encourage conversions. Another great example I like to give is when you're researching keywords, you're actually really researching user behavior and the needs of your target audience. And it it became clear to me that these disciplines, SEO, UX, and CRO, were all interconnected and really contributing to the same goal, creating that valuable experience to drive results. So I see SXO as formalizing that connection, providing that framework for a more holistic and effective approach to search. You'll see another great metaphor is if you think about building a house. We see traditional SEO, focused a lot or talking about the technical optimization, the keywords, and that's the foundation, but that's not the whole house. So I think SXO really builds on that foundation to incorporate user experience and conversion rate optimization to create that complete experience to not only attract people to come in to your house, but enjoy the experience and then want to stay and become loyal customers.
Right. In a way, it's building a house that they want to actually live in. Exactly. Many experts predict that in 2025, SEO success will depend less on traditional rankings and more on user engagement, AI-generated search experiences, and multi-platform visibility. You argue that SXO, by combining SEO, UX, and CRO, creates a more sustainable approach to search. How does SXO specifically help businesses increase organic traffic while adapting to these evolving search dynamics?
Completely agree about, the search landscape constantly evolving, and that hasn't been any faster than what we've seen in the past year, and 2025 being the year of agents and everything, even more so, I can imagine. And I agree that, while rankings, that's still really important, but we see, user engagement, AI search, and being across all and multi-platforms becoming so important for success for a lot of brands. And that's really why I think SXO is so crucial. We're focusing on that foundation of user centricity, which is really key to navigating these changes. And we see that SXO isn't tied to any specific algorithm or tactic because it's about understanding the user intent across different platforms and what I call modals or formats, and creating that valuable experience like wherever your target audience is. I really think that's what really drives organic traffic, and that's what is going to build a strong brand sustainably, because if you can consistently deliver that value, going to differentiate yourself and have that clear brand identity and show your USPs, I think that's super important. Being able to show your customers why they should choose you over, other competitors. So to give more of an example, thinking about, SXO and how that directly addresses user engagement, prioritizing UX, we see that when users have a positive experience on your website, then they're more likely to stay longer, explore more pages, and convert. And we know that search engines are actively seeking these positive user signals to really rank the pages as well. And even with AI, we see the core principle, I think, really remains the same, providing that valuable content to answer user questions. And I see SXO helping businesses create that content that's going to be optimized for both search engines and for user needs. Especially for Google, where we know that AI overviews still often rely heavily on traditional search rankings as a massive ranking factor. So overall, I think that SXO really helps businesses create that cohesive brand experience to attract and engage users and to actually help drive really engaged traffic across multiple sources. So essentially, I'd say it's, how we can think about future-proofing your search strategy. Then, whatever Google or OpenAI or maybe deep learning throws our way, we'll be ready for it then.
Well, I'm creating my own AI. I'm just going to call it Deep Nate. I'm I'm going to be rolling that out here next week or something like that. Foundationally, I understand what you're talking about. Can you just talk about how we roll that out into a business, or how a business, maybe one of your clients, how they're kind of implementing this right now out there in the real world?
I definitely agree. I think measuring is always, such a complex and tricky area. And for SXO, I definitely think measurement is one of the most challenging but also rewarding parts when you can actually have that process down. So what I usually refer to measuring SXO is what I call balanced scorecard approach, where we can combine both the quantitative and qualitative data to get that complete picture. So, we still track traditional SEO metrics, organic traffic and keyword rankings, click-through rates. These are still really important indicators of visibility, but I'd say these are just the starting point. So then we also really include user engagement metrics for our client reporting, bounce rate, duration, pages per visit, scroll depth. These will really tell us how users are interacting with our website, what they engage with, where they're stumbling or how they're moving through the funnel. Then, of course, in that third part, conversion rates are, of course, really crucial. So it's really important to make sure you're tracking that last part through the journey, how visitors then take their desired actions, whether that's signing up for newsletter, making a purchase, downloading a downloadable resource. And also really want to emphasize that I think qualitative data is just as important as the hard numbers. So we've seen great results for clients who are willing to invest in gathering that first-party user feedback, which could be through a survey, could be through interviews with some customers or subject matter experts, could involve some usability testing, and then analyzing some of the customer support interactions. And in the case where it's difficult to get the first-party data, then also looking at social listening tools to gauge sentiment, how that changes over time can be really, really helpful. And the key here with SXO reporting, which we really emphasize for clients, is more the focus back on business outcomes, how we can basically attribute from that search or from the first visit, how that can then lead to organically generated sales revenue, and eventually customer lifetime value. It's a bit trickier, and the return on investment.
For businesses that have relied on, the traditional ways of doing SEO, what's the first step they should take to transition toward a more SXO focused strategy?
Yeah, so in terms of the first step businesses should take, I think that really the biggest challenge for a lot of businesses, for a lot of marketers or SEOs, is really that mindset shift, transitioning from thinking in traditional SEO to SXO, and thinking about not only placing the value, I guess, on the keywords, on rankings, on backlink growth, to really focusing on the user, and also really caring about what kind of traffic, and really qualifying that a bit more to people who are really interested in your offer. So generally, I'd say the first step would be to ask yourself, do you know who your target audience is? Like, what are their needs? What are their pain points? What are they actually searching for, looking to solve? And then how can I address that through my product or service and in the helpful content I'm going to create? And then once you have got that down, then I think some actionable first steps would be thinking about, how can you start some small scale user research, like even just a few user interviews or a small survey, and looking at existing customer feedback, support tickets, social listening. And then what I really encourage SEOs to do is to, when you're doing your initial SEO audit, like in the discovery phase with a new client, or a new brand, like do your UX and CRO audit or review as well when you're on the website, and ask yourself, like, is this easy to navigate? Is the content clear and engaging for your target personas? Do you see any usability issues or blockers? Where are the stumbling blocks in that funnel? And that's where you can use tools like heat maps, session recordings, and think really about how the UX and CRO elements work together. Like, for example, you might have copy on a page that works for search intent and sounds great, and check that it also encourages conversions, for example. And then my last point here would be, it's okay to start small and iterate. It's okay, like, you can't do everything at once. So you really have to prioritize, which is the hard part. Focus on a few key areas for improvement that are backed by both your quantitative and qualitative data. And then you can continue to iterate based on more feedback. I want to emphasize that, SXO is a continuous process, not a one-time thing.
Well, and something you were saying earlier there was talking about content audits. And I think we're just starting out the year. This is a kind of a good time to think about both of these things, right? Maybe a brand is out there right now and they're thinking about their content audit and what they want, or what they have already, or what they want to have as they think about the year ahead. And also thinking about how they're going to be spending a lot of money on their SEO work or paid search work and stuff like that, and kind of aligning all of this together, right? It makes sense to kind of take a look and understand the user experience of all this sort of data at the same time. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe we're going into Feb already, but I think, especially with, I guess, the news recently, for example, like with HubSpot and what's going on with their own content strategy, I think now is a great time to have a fresh pair of eyes to look at what's already on the website and check that it aligns with your target personas and the business goals this year.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I forgot about that. You could have the number one page for washing machines, but if you're not in the washing machine business, what good is that doing you, right?
Exactly. I think it's, not, I guess, only straying as far as, it's going to be relevant for your niche, and also focus on things that are going to convert your business at the end of the day.
Oh, I definitely agree with that last point. Georgia, can you share an example of a case study that successfully implemented SXO, and what were some of the results?
Yeah, for sure, Nathan. So one example, we recently worked with a company in the home services industry that's really seen a huge improvement through SXO. So they initially came to us wanting to focus on increasing their traffic, which we did, say by about 300%, but that doesn't really say a lot alone. And from my perspective, the real impact was actually optimizing for their conversions. So for this, medium-sized business, they used to be getting from organic conversions of, say 1 a week only, to about getting to 5 to 10 per day. So as a percentage, I'd say that's about the 80 to 150% increase in conversion rate. And that really shows the multiplier effect that you can have by aligning SEO with that CRO strategy. And that really has led to, a great boost to your bottom line. And while I'm talking about conversions here, I'm really also talking about brand trust and loyalty, because these conversions, they didn't happen just by chance. They were focused on creating a better user experience. When they came to us, we were really lucky to work not just on, the SEO and content strategy, but simultaneously working on improving their website design, the navigation, actually fixing issues with their form submission and booking process, and just making it easier for potential customers to understand who they were as a brand and what they were offering. So it's really the improved experience overall, I think, that has led to more trust and like positive brand perception. So really having that positive experience over time will also mean, more repeat customers, referrals. And so, yeah, I think we're not just measuring impact and conversions. The underlying driver has been that better user experience here.
I think it's almost like a case study for you and your own business as well, right? Deliver value and you'll get the repeat business.
For sure. And I think what's been crazy is really seeing that, instead of how people talk about, I guess, making the incremental wins, I definitely say that if you start off and you make, relatively major changes if possible, both on the design and CRO side together with SEO all at once, Google definitely loves that, and so do users.
So they've adopted this mindset. They've gotten started with their SXO. How do they know? How does the brand know they're on the right track? Are there some milestones along the way? I know in many ways SEO is very much a long game. How do you know if you are on the right track?
Yeah, I know that it's something that all brands are going to worry about a lot, whether we're pacing as we should and with SXO, and it feels like such a new thing. But I'd say it's no different to, how you would measure your digital marketing plans or your content strategy. So, for example, once you update a page, maybe the first thing you do notice could be ranking improvement for, say, a smaller brand, or for a big corporation, you might find that actually the rankings don't change much at all. But might slowly start to see CTR increase, time on page increase, or potentially, for example, more in the engagement side of things. You really want people to click the, schedule consult or make a demo booking. And you start to see more click starts on the button there. Then you're on the right track. So I think it would be, yes, it's not going to be overnight, but you'd be surprised at how I think when you combine not just SEO optimization, but actually really caring about the UX and the design elements, thinking about the conversions as a whole mindset, we've seen like great results for clients within a couple of months. And then after that, it really is that cascading effect where then you see the results going in with the leads coming through.
It makes me think too that if anything, you may see things dip down, but your bottom of funnel conversions go up, right? Because you're having the people that you are actually interested in, consuming this content, and it's the right content. It's the content that they want, and so you're actually converting at a higher rate. Am I correct in that, or?
That's a really good point, actually. I think super, super relevant, especially now. I think overall, I'd expect for most brands, for organic search and traffic, that's just going to slowly go down over time. Not because demand is down, but just because people are absorbing their content from so many different places. They might be asking ChatGPT instead. But yeah, so I'd say the worst case is you might see that organic traffic, it may not be up, but yeah, what you're getting is a lot more qualified. The engagement's a lot higher and it converts better. But at the same time, we've definitely seen that improving your content for the user and really being more focused on the personas, addressing, how your target personas are feeling, what they're worried about. That's because people are so much more engaged, and that's a ranking factor. It's likely that it's still going to rank better anyway. So it's unlikely to happen. But either way, I think if you're focusing on the outcomes, it's great.
Ultimately, we just want to build a site that our customers are going to engage with, so that they buy the products or services that we're selling them, right? I mean, I don't know if...
Yeah. Exactly.
Just do right. Do right by your customers. Yeah. Do right by your customers and you'll do right by yourself, I guess, right? So...
Yeah, I think we need to go back to basics and the user, essentially.
Excellent. Georgia, I've appreciated your time today. I've appreciated you letting me jump around in this interview. How does someone learn more about you, your thought leadership, and the work you're doing over at SwitchKey Digital?
Thanks so much for having me, Nathan. Really enjoyed our chat today. Anyone wants to learn more about SXO, you can reach me on LinkedIn, Georgia Tan. Regularly share insights on SXO marketing there, or you can check out our website, switchkeydigital.com. Thanks so much.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Want to keep the conversation going? You can find the show notes at usertesting.com/podcast. If you haven't already, don't forget to follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, or Google Play so you never miss an episode. And if you enjoyed today's show, please share it with a friend or leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And until next time, this is Insights Unlocked, an original podcast from User Testing.